The research vessel Horizon cut silently through the star-speckled void, its sensors probing the edges of the Carina Nebula. Captain Rachel Morgan stood at the observation deck, her weathered face illuminated by the cosmic ballet of gases and newborn stars before her. 20 years of deep space exploration hadn't prepared her for what her ship's sensors had just detected. "Captain, you need to see this." Dr. James Way's voice crackled through the ship's comm system. "We've found something in Sector 7, something impossible." The impossibility in question hung suspended in space, a crystalline pod, no larger than a sleeping chamber, its surface refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. As the Horizon's external cameras zoomed in, Rachel felt her breath catch. Inside, barely visible through the translucent material, was a child. "Life signs?" Rachel demanded, already striding toward the research bay. "Stable, but unusual," James replied. "The energy patterns. I've never seen anything like them." "But Captain, that's not the strangest part. The pod's markings, they're luminari." Rachel's steps faltered. The luminari were among the most advanced species in known space, masters of energy manipulation and stellar engineering. They were also notorious isolationists who treated their technology as sacred. Finding abandoned luminari tech was unprecedented. Finding a luminari child in suspended animation was impossible. Within the hour, Rachel stood before the retrieved pod with her core team, James Way, their chief scientist, Lieutenant Dara Patel, security, and Dr. Nicholas Reeves, their xenobiologist. The pod's occupant was clearly visible now, a young girl, perhaps 13 by human standards. Her skin seemed to pulse with internal light, creating complex patterns that shifted even in suspended animation. "These patterns," Nicholas murmured, his scanner hovering over the pod's surface. "They're not normal for luminari physiology. Their bioluminescence usually maintains stable, symmetrical patterns. This is different. Beautiful, but different. Could that be why she's here?" Dara asked, her hand unconsciously resting on her sidearm. "The luminari are obsessed with genetic purity." Rachel studied the sleeping child's face. Despite the alien features, she could see peace there, the kind of peace that comes only when one feels safe. "How long has she been in stasis?" James consulted his readings. Based on the pod's power consumption rate, approximately 3 months. The pod was designed to maintain stasis for at least a year. Someone wanted her to be found, just, not too quickly. "Can we wake her safely?" Nicholas nodded slowly. "The pod systems are sophisticated but straightforward. We can initiate a gradual revival process. However," he hesitated, "we should consider the implications. The luminari don't abandon their own without reason. Helping her could be seen as interference in their internal affairs." Rachel's jaw tightened. She thought of her own daughter back on Earth, just a few years younger than this child. The implications of leaving a child to die in space are worse. "Begin revival procedures." As Nicholas worked, the pod's surface began to warm, its crystalline structure humming with awakening energy. The girl's shifting patterns grew stronger, more vibrant. Her eyes moved beneath delicate lids. "Bringing up translation matrix," James announced, adjusting the ship's communication systems. "Though there's no guarantee she'll." The girl's eyes snapped open. They were extraordinary, pools of swirling energy that seemed to contain entire nebulae. Fear flickered across her face, then confusion, then something like wonder as she took in the humans surrounding her. When she spoke, her voice carried both the musical quality of her species and the unmistakable tremor of a frightened child. "You found me. They said no one would, but you did." Rachel stepped forward, keeping her voice gentle. "You're safe now. I'm Captain Rachel Morgan. Can you tell us your name?" The girl's patterns swirled with new colors, blues and silvers that danced across her skin. "Thura." My name is Thera. She pressed a hand against the pod's surface, and to everyone's shock, energy coursed from her fingers into the crystal, causing it to dissolve harmlessly around her. They called me broken because I can do things like that. Because I'm different. Her eyes met Rachel's. Are you going to send me back? Rachel felt the weight of the moment, of the choice before her. She thought of regulations, of protocols, of the diplomatic nightmare that likely awaited them. Then she thought of what it meant to be human, truly human, in a vast and often cruel universe. No, she said firmly. You're not broken, Thera. And you're not going back. Not if I have anything to say about it. The girl's patterns exploded with color, and for the first time, the humans saw what might have been a luminary smile, a ripple of pure light that transformed her entire being. None of them knew it yet, but that moment would change not just Thera's life, but the course of human-alien relations forever. As the Horizon's engines hummed to life, carrying them toward Earth and uncertainty, Rachel made a silent promise to the strange, wonderful child they'd found among the stars. No matter what came next, they would face it together. 3 days after rescuing Thera, the Horizon's mess hall became an impromptu classroom. The young luminary sat cross-legged on a table, surrounding objects floating gently in the air around her, cups, utensils, even Dr. Wei's precious data pad. Her patterns pulsed with joy as she demonstrated her abilities to the amazed crew. It's not just moving things, she explained, her translator converting her musical language into clear English. I can feel the energy in everything, the ship's engines, the stars outside, even your bodies. The floating items danced in complex patterns before settling gently back in their places. No other luminary can do this. They say it's dangerous, unnatural. Rachel watched from the doorway, noting how the crew had already grown protective of their unusual passenger. Even Lieutenant Patel, initially the most cautious, now sat nearby, teaching Thera to play chess, though the pieces had a tendency to hover between moves. Captain? Officer Raj Kumar's voice came through her comm unit. We're receiving a transmission. Luminary frequency. The room fell silent. Thera's patterns shifted to deep purples, fear, they'd learned. Rachel straightened. Route it to my quarters. Dr. Wei, with me. In her cabin, Rachel activated the view screen. The face that appeared belonged to a luminary elder, his patterns perfectly symmetrical, radiating authority. Captain Morgan. I am High Counselor Ven of the Luminary Conclave. You have something that belongs to us. Rachel kept her voice neutral. We recovered an abandoned stasis pod containing a child. Under Earth Alliance law, that constitutes a rescue operation. That individual was removed from our society for the safety of all. Her condition makes her unstable, dangerous. We demand her immediate return. Condition? James interrupted, unable to contain himself. She's gifted. Her ability to manipulate energy fields could revolutionize our understanding of Dash. Dr. Wei, Rachel warned, though she shared his outrage. She turned back to Ven. The child shows no signs of instability. In fact, she demonstrates remarkable control over her abilities. Control that will fail, Ven insisted. We have dealt with such aberrations before. They always end in tragedy. Return her, or there will be consequences. After the transmission ended, Rachel slumped in her chair. Options? We're 3 days from Earth Alliance space, James offered. If we can make it there, they'll have to go through proper channels to get her back. It would buy us time. Time for what? To prove she's not dangerous. To show that her differences are valuable. He paused. To give her a chance. That evening, Rachel found Thera in the observation deck, watching the stars streak by. The girl's patterns had dimmed to soft blues and silvers. They told you I'm dangerous, Thera said without turning. They told us their version of the truth. Rachel sat beside her. I'd like to hear yours. Thura's patterns flickered. I started showing signs when I was 7. At first, they tried to suppress it with treatments. When those failed, they said they needed to study me. There were tests, painful ones. She hugged herself. Then they discovered I could affect their containment fields. That's when they decided to get rid of me. Your parents? Agreed it was necessary. Luminary society values harmony above all. Anything that disrupts that harmony must be eliminated. Energy shimmered around her hands. But I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to understand what I can do, to use it to help. Rachel felt a fierce protectiveness surge through her. Then that's what we'll do. But Thura, you should know, the journey ahead won't be easy. The Luminary won't give up, and Earth authorities might not be immediately welcoming. For the first time, Thura smiled, not just with her patterns, but with her face, an expression she'd learned from the crew. I survived being abandoned in space, Captain. I can survive anything else, as long as I'm not alone. A warning klaxon shattered the moment. Captain, to the bridge. Kumar's voice was urgent. Multiple ships just dropped out of FTL. Luminary signatures. Rachel was already moving. Red alert. All hands to stations. She turned to Thura. Stay here. But Thura stood, her patterns blazing with determination. They're here because of me. Let me help. It's too dangerous. Everything's dangerous, Thura interrupted. You taught me that being different isn't wrong. Let me prove it. Looking into those star-filled eyes, Rachel made another choice. Follow me. As they raced to the bridge, alarms blaring around them, Rachel realized that whatever happened next would determine not just Thura's fate, but perhaps the future of human-alien relations. They were about to show the Luminary, and the universe, that sometimes the greatest strength lies in embracing what makes us different. The hunt was on, and the horizon was about to show why humanity had survived countless challenges, not through perfection, but through accepting and defending those who dared to be different. The Horizon's bridge erupted into activity as 3 Luminary vessels emerged from FTL, their crystalline hulls gleaming like polished diamonds against the void. Rachel took her command chair, Thura standing nervously beside her. Time to Earth Alliance space? Rachel demanded. 6 hours at maximum speed, Kumar reported from the helm. The Luminary ships are faster, Captain. They'll overtake us in 2. Lieutenant Patel's hands flew across the tactical console. Their weapons are powered but not locked. They're transmitting again. High Counselor Ven's face appeared on the main screen, his patterns now pulsing with harsh reds. Your interference ends now, Captain Morgan. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. This is not a request. Rachel stood, positioning herself slightly in front of Thura. Your ships are in Earth Alliance territory without clearance. Any aggressive action will be considered an act of war. You're harboring a dangerous aberration. I'm not dangerous. Thura stepped forward, her patterns blazing with newfound courage. You're the ones who hurt me, who wanted to destroy me because you didn't understand. Energy crackled around Thura's form, and for a moment, every screen on the bridge flickered. Ven's expression shifted to something like fear. You see? Already she loses control. End this now, or . Rachel cut the transmission. Mr. Kumar, get us out of here. Maximum speed. The Horizon leaped forward, its engines straining. The Luminary ships followed, their superior technology allowing them to gain steadily. The first warning shot flashed across their bow, a beam of concentrated energy that lit up the shields. Shields at 85%. Patel reported. They're not trying to destroy us, they want to disable our engines. Dr. Wei burst onto the bridge. Captain, we might have a chance. There's an unstable protostar in range. If we can get close enough, its radiation should mask our signature. That's suicide, Kumar protested. The stellar winds alone could tear us apart. Thara's patterns shifted to brilliant gold. I can help. I can feel the energy from here, I might be able to shield us. Rachel looked at the young alien she'd sworn to protect, seeing not fear but determination in those cosmic eyes. You're sure? Trust me. Please. Another shot rocked the ship. Shields at 60%. Rachel made her decision. Kumar, plot a course for that protostar. Dr. Wei, work with Thara, give her whatever she needs. The rest of you, battle stations. The horizon banked hard, racing toward the massive protostar. Its surface boiled with nuclear fire, sending out waves of deadly radiation and superheated plasma. The luminary ships followed, but even they kept their distance from the stellar monster. Thara stood at the front of the bridge, her hands pressed against the view screen. Her patterns began to shift faster than ever before, creating complex geometries that seemed to extend beyond her body. I can feel it, she whispered. So much power. The first solar flare hit them like a tsunami. The ship groaned, but where the energy should have overwhelmed their shields, it instead flowed around them like water around a stone. Through the view screen, they could see an impossible sight, a bubble of pure force extending from Thara's hands, redirecting the stellar fury. It's working! Wei exclaimed, checking his readings. She's not just blocking the energy, she's absorbing it, redistributing it. This is incredible. Rachel watched in awe as Thara conducted the symphony of stellar forces, her small frame containing power that should have been impossible. The luminary ships fell further behind, unable to approach as closely. But nothing comes without a price. Her core temperature is rising, Wei warned. She can't maintain this forever. Just a little longer, Thara gasped, her patterns now almost too bright to look at. Sweat beaded on her forehead, something none of them had seen a luminary do before. Kumar, status. Stellar interference is at maximum. We're almost at the exit point, but our shields are failing. Thara's legs buckled. Rachel caught her before she could fall. Now, Mr. Kumar. Get us out of here. The horizon shot away from the protostar like a bullet from a gun, riding the wave of stellar energy. When the light faded and the sensors cleared, the luminary ships were gone, lost in the stellar interference. Thara lay trembling in Rachel's arms, her patterns dim but stable. Did we make it? Rachel smiled, brushing back Thara's luminescent hair. We made it. You saved us all. The young alien managed a weak smile. I told you I wasn't dangerous. At least, not to the right people. As the crew cheered and the horizon set course for Earth Alliance space, Rachel realized they'd witnessed something unprecedented, not just the power Thara wielded, but the wisdom with which she used it. The luminary feared her because she was different. But here, among humans who had learned long ago to celebrate diversity, she had found not just acceptance but understanding. They still had challenges ahead, the luminary wouldn't give up easily, and Earth's bureaucracy would present its own obstacles. But watching her crew gather around Thara, offering congratulations and support, Rachel knew they'd already won the most important battle, the one against fear itself. Earth loomed before them, a blue jewel wrapped in the steel embrace of orbital stations and defense platforms. The Horizon's crew had won their desperate race through space, but Rachel knew their real battle was just beginning. As they approached the main Earth Defense Command station, her fears were confirmed by the incoming transmission. Research Vessel Horizon, you are ordered to dock at Platform Alpha. Security teams will board for inspection. Any resistance will be met with force. The command center they were led to was deliberately imposing, all gleaming metal and stern-faced officials. Thera's patterns had shifted to nervous silvers and grays as she sat before the review board, Rachel standing protectively at her side. The three judges looked down from their elevated platform, their expressions unreadable. Director Blackwood, a stern woman with steel-gray hair, spoke first. "Captain Morgan, you stand accused of violating multiple diplomatic protocols, endangering your crew, and potentially inciting an interstellar incident. All for one alien child. Explain yourself." Rachel squared her shoulders. "When we found Thera, she was abandoned in space, left to die because she was different. Every law of Earth Alliance, every principle we claim to stand for, obligated us to help. The Luminari claim she was legally remanded to their custody for public safety," Judge Rodriguez interjected. "They demand her immediate return." "Public safety is their euphemism for genetic purification," Dr. Wei stepped forward, despite protocol. "The data we recovered from her stasis pod proves they subjected her to inhumane experiments. They fear her abilities because they can't control them." "And these abilities," Director Blackwood leaned forward, "how dangerous are they?" Thera's patterns flickered with indignation. "I saved the horizon from both the Luminari and a protostar's fury. I could have destroyed their ships, but I chose to protect instead. Isn't that the true measure of power?" The chamber fell silent. Even the guard seemed moved by the quiet dignity in her voice. Admiral Chen, the third judge, spoke for the first time. "While your intentions may have been noble, Captain, this situation creates significant diplomatic complications. The Luminari are threatening to cut off all relations with Earth Alliance." "Then perhaps those relations need examination," Rachel countered. "Are we willing to sacrifice our principles for political convenience? To send a child back to torture and possible death because it's diplomatic?" Lieutenant Patel stepped forward. "Permission to address the board?" At their nod, she continued, "I serve as head of security on the horizon. I was trained to identify threats. What I see in Thera isn't a threat, it's hope. Hope that different species can not only coexist but learn from each other. Isn't that worth fighting for?" The doors burst open as a new figure entered, Commissioner Roland of the Earth Alliance Science Division, his eyes bright with barely contained excitement. "My apologies for the interruption, but you need to see this." He activated a holographic display showing energy patterns. "We've been analyzing the sensor logs from the horizon. What Thera did with that protostar, it should have been impossible. She didn't just deflect the energy, she harmonized with it. The applications for this ability in stellar engineering, in energy production, in space travel itself." "I'm not a science project," Thera interrupted, standing. Her patterns blazed with rainbow colors as she lifted off the ground, energy swirling around her. But instead of fear, her display drew gasps of wonder. "I'm a person. I want to learn, to grow, to help. The Luminari tried to suppress my gift. Here, among humans, I've learned to embrace it. Please, let me stay. Let me show you what we can achieve together." Rachel watched the judges' faces, seeing the conflict there. Everything hung in the balance, not just Thera's fate, but humanity's chance to prove they truly believed in their ideals of acceptance and protection of the innocent. Director Blackwood spoke quietly with her colleagues, then faced the chamber. "This board needs time to consider all implications. Until then Alarms screamed to life. Admiral Chen's comm unit crackled, multiple Luminari warships just dropped out of FTL. They're demanding we surrender the girl or face immediate attack." The chamber erupted in chaos. Security personnel rushed to battle stations as updates poured in. The Luminari fleet was larger than anything they'd ever deployed to Earth space. In the midst of the panic, Thera's voice rang out clear and strong. "Let me talk to them. Please. No more running, no more hiding. It's time they understood that being different isn't a flaw, it's a gift." Rachel looked at the young alien who had become so much more than a refugee. She saw not the scared child they'd rescued, but a bridge between worlds, a symbol of hope that difference could lead to strength rather than conflict. The judges exchanged glances. Director Blackwood nodded slowly. Very well. But whatever happens next will determine not just your fate, but the future of human-Luminari relations. As they rushed to the command center, Rachel realized that everything had led to this moment. The true test wasn't just saving Thera, it was proving that humanity's greatest strength lay in its willingness to stand up for what was right, no matter the cost. The final confrontation loomed, and with it, the chance to change the course of interstellar history. The Earth Defense Command Center hummed with tense energy as 12 Luminari warships hung in high orbit, their crystalline hulls catching the sun like faceted diamonds. On the main viewscreen, High Counselor Ven's face showed no emotion, but his patterns pulsed with aggressive reds and blacks. "This is your final warning," he announced. "Return the aberration, or we will take action to protect our society's purity." Thera stood before the screen, her patterns rippling with calm blues and golds. The fear that had haunted her since her abandonment was gone, replaced by quiet determination. Rachel and the Horizon's crew flanked her, while Earth Alliance officials watched anxiously. "I have a counter-proposal," Thera said, her voice steady. "Let me show you what you've been afraid of. Let me prove that different doesn't mean dangerous." Before anyone could stop her, Thera raised her hands. Energy flowed from her, reaching out through the station's systems. The viewscreen expanded, becoming a three-dimensional projection that filled the chamber. Within it, they could see what Thera saw, the flowing currents of energy that connected everything, the station's power grid, the ships in orbit, even the subtle fields generated by living beings. "This is how I see the world," she explained. "Not as separate things, but as patterns of energy, all connected, all part of something greater. You called it an aberration. I call it understanding." Ven's patterns flickered with uncertainty. "Understanding that could destroy or create," Thera interrupted. She gestured, and the energy flows shifted. The station's power efficiency suddenly increased by 30%. The background radiation from a nearby solar flare simply curved around Earth's atmosphere, dissipating harmlessly into space. By the first light, one of the Luminari captains whispered, their patterns showing shock. "She's conducting stellar forces like a symphony." Dr. Wei stepped forward, holding up his data pad. "We've been studying Thera's abilities. She's not a mutation, she's an evolution. A natural next step for your species. But instead of understanding her, you tried to suppress her. How many others like her have you lost because of fear?" The chamber fell silent as Ven's patterns shifted through complex emotions. But before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Lieutenant Patel's hands flew across her console. "Massive solar flare incoming," she announced. "Biggest one recorded in decades. Our shields can't handle it." The Luminari ships began to retreat, their superior drives allowing them to escape. But Earth's orbital stations and the millions of people they protected had nowhere to go. Thera's patterns blazed like a newborn star. "I can help. But I'll need power, more than I've ever channeled before." Rachel grabbed her hand. "You don't have to do this alone." "She won't be alone," Ven's voice rang out. To everyone's shock, his patterns had shifted to deep purple, the color of revelation. "All Luminari ships, hold position. Link your power grids to the human station. Give her what she needs." The next few minutes were like nothing humanity had ever witnessed. As the solar flare approached, Thera stood at the heart of a web of energy, drawing power from both human and Luminari technology. Her patterns swirled with colors no one had seen before, her form almost transparent with the power flowing through her. When the flare hit, it met a shield unlike any ever created, not a barrier, but a redirect. Thera conducted the solar fury like a master musician, weaving its destructive power into harmony. The deadly radiation transformed into spectacular auroras that danced across Earth's skies, visible even in daylight. When it was over, Thera swayed but remained standing, supported by Rachel on one side and, surprisingly, by Ven's holographic form on the other. "We were wrong," Ven admitted, his patterns showing humility. "What we saw as a flaw was instead a gift, not just for our people, but for all species." He turned to the Earth Alliance officials. "If you will have us, we propose a new kind of cooperation. A school, perhaps, where gifted children like Thera, both human and Luminari, can learn to understand and develop their unique abilities together." Director Blackwood stepped forward. "We would welcome such cooperation." She smiled at Thera. "It seems you've built a bridge between our peoples without even trying." Thera's patterns rippled with joy as she looked around at the humans who had become her family and the Luminari who had finally accepted her. "Not without trying," she corrected. "Without fear. There's a difference." In the days that followed, the first interspecies academy for gifted youth was established in orbit around Earth. Thera would be its first student, and eventually, one of its most respected teachers. More young Luminari like her were discovered and welcomed rather than shunned. Humanity's willingness to embrace difference rather than fear it had changed the course of two civilizations. Rachel watched from the horizon's observation deck as Thera helped welcome the first group of students, human and Luminari children, each unique in their own way. The young alien caught her eye and waved, her patterns forming the shape of a heart, a human gesture she'd come to love. "You know," Dr. Wei said, joining her at the window, "when we found her in that stasis pod, I thought we were saving her. Turns out, she was saving us, from our own prejudices, from our own fears of difference." Rachel smiled, watching the children below. "That's the thing about hope," she replied. "Sometimes it comes in the form we least expect. We just have to be brave enough to recognize it." Above them, Earth turned serenely, its night side now illuminated not just by city lights, but by the gentle glow of the new academy, a beacon of acceptance and possibility in the darkness of space, promising a future where being different wasn't just tolerated, but celebrated.